What's up, everybody? It is Matt Brown here for PlayPicks.com and joined by the one, the only Brett Colson. You have seen him on this very channel. You will be seeing much more of him on this very channel. We are coming to you live from New Jersey. We're here for the DraftKings Sports Betting Championship. Going to be a lot of fun.
It is going to be a lot of fun. We don't know a whole lot of what's going on yet because we haven't actually seen what the event looks like, but we're going to be on site tomorrow providing as much coverage as we can.
Yeah, absolutely. But of course, you are watching this video because we're going to talk a little bit about the Indianapolis Colts and the Kansas City Chiefs. Guys, as always, click the link down below, use the bonus code DKPicks.com or head to the link DKPicks.com, use the PlayPicks /bonus, all of those things. You're going to get the very best sign-up bonuses on the internet. If you go to DKPicks.com, you're going to get free $35 at DraftKings Sportsbook. That is the very best deal on the internet, Brett.
Right.
I did not know if you knew that or not. That is the very best deal.
In fact, did know that, but I'm not sure they knew that.
Yes, it's the very best deal on the internet here, guys. All right, so let's talk a little bit about this. Of course, start out with the weather here. And this is something a little bit of a concern, but not, I think, maybe as much as people are going to make it out to be. We're going to be looking at right around freezing temperatures there in Kansas City. Looks like there's at least going to be 10-ish miles per hour of wind, and then there's going to be a chance of snow. Brett, I imagine by the time this game kicks off, people are going to make a really, really big deal out of this, but you and I have seen this time and time again that I think a lot of people really do overplay the weather in these situations.
The field's all going to be cleared off by game. We hope by game time. They are talking about like 10 inches of snow, which is a little concerning, especially if it's coming on right before the game. But I think this will be overblown, and I'm not really sure if it benefits one team or another. I guess we'll...
Yeah, I mean, if you guys want to kind of play a weather narrative into this whole thing, of course, you know that one team is a dome team, one team is not a dome team. Right. So, of course, that's certainly something that we will take into consideration here as we get going. Of course, the last time you saw this this Colts team, they were winning, and they were winning outright, and they were winning in what I consider to be pretty spectacular fashion the last time we saw them play.
Yeah, and winning every single week for feels like 3 months. This team is just on a roll right now, and that's definitely showing in the odds that we're seeing right now and in the spread.
Of course, we did not see the Chiefs last week. You know, they were on bye. This is a team that I think probably could have used the bye, actually, because when you consider just how things were going with the team, I mean, having to kick the star running back off the field and all the things like that, I think that, you know, having that extra week to kind of get things together, get a little bit more healthy, I think is probably a good benefit for the Chiefs team.
Yeah, absolutely. Clear things, focus. Also a week to prepare for Andrew Luck and this team that is flying high right now. It's absolutely benefits them.
So guys, let's take a look real quick over at the odds here. We'll start at DraftKings Sportsbook, and as you can see on your screen here, we are looking at 5.5 for the Chiefs. We got 56.5 total in this one. 230 if you're looking favorite money line, 185 if you are looking at the dog money line here over at BetStars. We got 5.5 as well, but we do have 57 over here as far as the total, 185 and 225 on the money line over there. And at FanDuel, if you are taking a look at FanDuel, we've got 5 over here. So no hook on them over there, 57 and then 235 and 200. So you can see that if you want to do a little shopping, there's shopping to be done.
There is little value, at least on FanDuel, if you like the Chiefs, and if you like the Colts, definitely fire on DraftKings.
You see on DraftKings right here before we get out of here, a little bit of reduced juice, a tiny bit. If you were liking them at 5.5 right there, of course, the 56.5 is what we're looking at over here. We'll come back here and talk a little bit about some of these props and things like that. Kind of along the way as we get going. Now, you know, what we want to do is talk about some of the way that these teams look on offense and how they look on defense and how you might want to process some of these things. Of course, you're looking at this Chiefs team that is you're looking at this Colts team that is 7th in points per game, 7th in total yards, 5th in red zone touchdown percentage. And this is like one of those stats that I have as I've become a little bit more savvy in handicapping over the years that I've taken into consideration a lot more, because especially when you're looking at totals, if you're a total better out there, how often they're actually converting into touchdowns as opposed to settling for field goals when they get to the red zone is certainly something that you need to take into consideration.
Definitely, and this team's been red hot in that respect. But here we have a team going on the road in these conditions against a defense that's much better at home in the Chiefs. I mean, this team has been completely different. Like the Chiefs are only averaging 18 points against at home this season.
Yeah.
So the Colts have a big challenge ahead of them.
They have they're 12th in rush attempts here. So, I mean, listen, I know you think the aerial attack whenever you think of Andrew Luck, but that's not necessarily the case. 12th in rush attempts here. 17th in rush yards, 17th in rush yards per attempt, 3rd overall in pass attempts. And this is one of the things here that, at the beginning of the season, you never would have thought that because everyone was talking about Andrew Luck and the shoulder and, oh my God, they put in another guy to throw a Hail Mary. Do you remember when that was actually a story in the NFL? There was a narrative that he couldn't throw a Hail Mary, and everyone was losing their minds and saying Andrew Luck is washed up. Do you remember this?
I do remember it, and he hasn't had to throw many Hail Marys lately because they're playing up by 20, 30 points. So.
Unbelievable that was actually a narrative here. They're 6th in pass yards, 16th in pass yards per attempt. If you're looking at their offensive line statistics here, guys, 8th according to Pro Football Focus in run blocking and 6th when it comes to pass blocking. So they're getting it done with this offensive line as well. And there was a stretch there where Andrew Luck had gone, over 200 dropbacks without getting sacked. And, this is one of the things with Andrew Luck that I think has helped with his success so far this season is just the fact that when he drops back, he pretty much knows he's getting a clean pocket.
Absolutely. This offensive line has been fantastic. Every single one of those guys has been brilliant. So yeah, huge difference.
On the Kansas City side of the ball, of course, you know where this is going to go as far as these offensive statistics. 1st in points per game, 1st in total yards, 2nd in red zone touchdown percentage. If you want to come down a little bit, they don't run the ball quite as much as we thought, and certainly not here over the last few weeks of the season. 23rd as far as rush attempts and 23rd in just rush percentage overall as far as their offensive plays. But, you get into the passing here. But when you get into the digging a little bit further, rush yards per attempt, they are 5th in rush yards per attempt. So while they don't do it a lot, when they do it, they've actually been really efficient in doing it.
Yeah, and even after Kareem Hunt was gone, I mean, they found ways to get these guys in positions to get space, and especially Damian Williams. You get that guy in space and he can make plays, and he has.
Yeah, absolutely. And, this is Spencer Ware's at least been in that program. It's not like he came out of nowhere or anything like that.
Right.
And so, I mean, there is a guy that they have is familiar with everything that goes on there. 10th in pass attempts, 10th in pass percentage. We got looking at 3rd overall in pass yards, 1st in pass yards per attempt. And if you're looking at Pro Football Focus and how they're kind of grading out this offensive line, you've got 5th overall run blocking unit and the 7th overall pass blocking unit. So, Brad, whenever we look at these numbers here, and I don't think it takes a genius as you're watching this to really understand how this plays out. We're looking at 2 really good offenses here.
We are, and it really is going to come
in all facets of the game. And while, like we said, while the Chiefs don't run it a lot, when they do, they're very efficient in doing it. And then you look on the other side of the ball, and in the Colts, where you don't really think that this is going to be a team that's kind of 12th in the league in rushing, but upper 3rd.
Yeah, and Marlon Mack, we saw last week how they just cleared the way for Marlon Mack to have a monster game, and how you beat the Chiefs is on the ground. They're dead last in rush defense. So, I mean, Marlon Mack should have a big part of this game early on.
So this could be the difference here if you guys are looking at a way that maybe you wanted to lean towards the Colts here. We'll talk about the defensive differences in these two teams here. We'll start out with the Colts, though. 10th overall DVOA, 18th overall as ranked by Pro Football Focus. They're giving up the 11th most yards per game allowed there. 7th, according to Pro Football Focus, against the run. 8th in rush yards per game allowed. 6th in rush yards per attempt. And so what you look at here is we have a team with the Chiefs that is efficient by the numbers rushing the football, but going against one of the better run defenses there is right now.
Yeah, if not the best. They've been fantastic. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how the Chiefs run the ball on Saturday. I mean, are they going to come right out of the gates and pound the ball on the ground? I'm not sure they can do that.
So a little bit on the pass defense here. They've got the 21st graded pass rush, however, so not getting to the quarterback all that often. Their coverage grade is 20th according to Pro Football Focus. And again, these are guys that are watching every single play that happens and grading, how they see it with their eyes. 15th in pass yards per game allowed, 12th in pass yards per attempt allowed. And if you're wondering how they rate out kind of individually against the positions, they're all right against most of the positions, really, really good against wide receivers and really bad against tight ends. Interesting that they are 31st in the league against tight ends, because what does that Chiefs team have?
They have
probably the best tight end in the
maybe one of the top 2 tight ends for sure in the league.
You would have to assume that the Colts have realized this and their deficiency, and certainly are going to try to take into account what they're going to do against Travis Kelce. That being said, interesting that they are in the bottom of the league against that position that they rely on so heavily there for the Chiefs.
And the Colts have some injuries in that secondary in the middle of the field right now. Those guys are there to stop the pass in the middle of the field. So with them hobbling or possibly out, Malik Hooker's been dealing with injuries. So that's a huge question mark for the Colts.
On the defensive side of the ball for the Chiefs, of course, if there was an Achilles heel for this team that has been, so incredibly fun to watch from the offensive side all year, on the defensive side, half the time, a lot of the reasons that they've been so fun to watch is because they give up points and they have to keep scoring. And so you'll see it in the statistics as it plays out right here. 26th overall DVOA, 20th as ranked by Pro Football Focus. And then when you take a look at how they really have come out in all facets of the defense here, I mean, bottom 5 in the league in yards per game allowed, against the run, against rushing yards per game, rushing yards per attempt. And then you get down into coverage, they're 25th. Pass yards per game allowed, 31st. Now, of course, when we talk about pass yards per game, that can be a little bit of a misleading statistic, because if you're ahead a lot, then teams abandon the run and start passing against you. That being said, it is pretty startling when you look down kind of these stats here and see that, man, this defense is in the bottom 5 in just about every defensive statistic category there is.
That said, they are very good at getting to the quarterback. So this is a very high variance defense. They can get to you and force turnovers and get sacks, but they are very weak in the secondary and in the middle of the field.
Glad you brought that up. They are ranked 3rd overall in pass rush in the NFL. So you're looking at a team, like he said, that despite their deficiencies in the secondary and even against the run, you still need to get it out and you need to get it off quick. Right. That being, and we just mentioned how this offensive line has been keeping Andrew Luck. This really is a fascinating matchup and a very, very interesting kind of blend of what one team does well against what another team does kind of poorly. And then you're going to see how they can pull this off here. But so one of the things we do here, Brett, all the time, so let's make a case for the over if we wanted to bet the over here. I think it was at BetStars whenever we were taking a look, it was the lowest one, right? So we're 57, I think it was 56.5 over at DraftKings. So 56.5. Let's make a case for the over in this one. I think the first thing is one of the most obvious is two amazing offenses, right?
Yeah, with two amazing quarterbacks who can light it up with big play wide receivers. Obviously, that is the case, really. I mean,
and that is, one of the quickest ways to hit an over is splash plays. And like you just mentioned, now you have T.Y. Hilton on one side of the ball and you have Tyreek Hill on the other side of the ball. Those guys basically have made a living in the NFL so far to date on splash plays. Yeah. And so, not only do we have talented quarterbacks here and talented offenses, but you have these guys that can score in 10 seconds on these 85-yard bombs. And that's a real quick way to get this thing pumping towards the over.
Yeah. And another case for the over is the Kansas City defense. Like I said, a very high variance defense. If they aren't getting the quarterback, Andrew Luck's going to have all day to pick them apart.
Yeah, and you got to think that as good as we think that the Colts defense is going to play against this Chiefs team, I mean, listen, there's not very many Chiefs offenses out there, right? And so, like, while we have all these statistics and say, like, oh yeah, they've been playing super, super great, you don't play the Chiefs very often. Yeah. So, I mean, like that can completely change the thing there. And again, we could find ourselves kind of in a track meet here. Now, if we want to make a case for the under in this one, let's just start with the low hanging fruit, because again, we are taping this, well in advance of game time. And of course, we tell you this all the time. When we get to this time of year, make sure and look at the weather for yourself before kickoff or before if it's something that you're worried about. But let's just start with the low-hanging fruit and the fact that the conditions could be rough, right? Yeah. And so the conditions could be bad. And when we see that, of course, certainly the colder the weather, it affects kickers. If this weather, if the wind, which is supposed to be in the 10-ish range, kind of gets up more into that 15 to 20-ish range, certainly affects the pass game and things like that. And, we don't expect it to blizzard, but whatever. Weirder things have happened, right?
That's the one thing you really need to watch leading up to the kickoff is what the field looks like, what the wind looks like. If there's gusts of 20, 25 miles per hour, I'm definitely leaning under.
Yeah. I mean, look, you certainly have to think of that. And then, one of the other cases that you can make for the under here is if you've been watching this Chiefs defense and if you've been this Colts defense and you've been watching this team play, Brett was not, basically exaggerating here, saying that it's been one of the better defenses, and certainly over the latter half of the season has been one of the best defenses that we've seen in the NFL. And look, the Chiefs certainly have this high-powered, high-flying offense, but maybe you can find a way to neutralize either a Kelsey or a Hill, and then you kind of make this team a little bit more one-dimensional, and maybe this turns more into a 27-17 type game or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Frank Reich's going to want to keep Pat Mahomes off the field. So looking at the offensive side, maybe they grind the run game with Marlon Mack, and just run after run after run.
That's true. That's another great case for the under is play keep away, right? Yeah. Like don't put it in the hands of a guy like Mahomes with all these weapons and things that he's got. So certainly another way there. So when you're kind of formulating how you're going to go with your bets there, guys, definitely take all that into account here. All right. So let's talk about the bets here. We're looking at 5.5 at the various books that we looked at a little bit earlier. you know me, right? I'm Captain Teaser when it comes to these kind of like standalone NFL games and things like that. And certainly, I think that there's continue to watch. We'll have more videos talking about the rest of the games throughout the weekend, but I think I like the Colts, man, any which way on a teaser. Like I do. If I'm playing this game straight up, I think I would probably lean a little bit more towards the Chiefs. I would certainly find that better number at 5 than 5.5.
Right.
But it's that no man's land number that I hate so much. And if I can get it out of that realm, then I like to get it out of that realm. And I think if you had to ask me, do I believe what is more likely a scenario? Would it be the Colts keeping it within, let's call it, at this point it'd be 11.5 points or something like that, or winning outright or something like that? I just feel like there's a lot more scenarios that lean towards that. I think you're kind of leaning the other way in this one.
I am. You mentioned 11.5. I mean, looking back like 3 months ago, what would this line have been?
Yeah.
It might have been around 11.5, 12, 13 points because the Colts were out of it. And here we have a team that has been red hot. Sneak their way into the playoffs, and now it's 5.5. I feel like there's line value here with the Chiefs at 5 or 5.5. I feel like with the public pounding Indy, they're just going to leave it at 5.5, and the books are going to see what happens. But I think this line should be 7, so I definitely like the Chiefs on that side.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting too because you would think that the higher offensive team would be the one that was kind of the darling of the public side, because it's just like they love offense so much and they love the way that all goes.
The Colts have made people so much money in the last 2 months, so they're just going to keep riding with it.
And I think from a total aspect, how I'm looking at this one is, I know it's kind of a cop-out to say let's wait and see how this weather thing turns out. But in all honesty, I think this number is pretty fair. I think, about the 56-ish, 57 total, I think is pretty fair. But should we find out that this field's going to be completely clean, there's going to be no problems whatsoever, I think there's going to be points in this game, and so I would not fear one bit taking the over here. Now on the other side, if we're trying to be savvy here, and that's what we're trying to do, and if that were the case, and we see that, all right, man, these wins are supposed to be 10, now they're 20, and there's Gus at 23, and things like that, that would certainly shy me towards the under in that.
Yeah, totally fair. Yep.
I mean, I know that's kind of a non-answer.
Well, we don't know yet because I mean, it really comes down to what the weather is tomorrow. We just don't know what it's going to be like. So,
and look, you know me. So if I'm playing this one solo, probably be taking Colts 11.5 and the over and get that thing down to like 51.
Yeah.
And kind of go from there. And I think this could be one of those things. If you did play this as a teaser, I could see this being a 2-way winner actually. Like just basically teaser, and no matter how you play it, you end up a winner in this one. The books hate that, but we as bettors certainly love that. So be sure and take advantage of that, guys. As always, please hit that subscribe button down below. Hit the like button. Hit in the comments. Let us know how you're playing this game. We're very interested in all these things. And again, as we said, you guys got us to 1,000 subscribers. We really, really appreciate that. But now we got to hit 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, 10,000. We've got to keep going with all of that down there. So DKPicks.com, $35 free at DraftKings Sportsbook. PlayPicks /bonus. All of the very best sportsbook and DFS bonuses on the internet, guys. Thanks so much. And again, watch all the videos. We're going to talk about all the games this weekend.